In today's video, I will be showing you how I make this Victorian Gothic-y Irish crochet style crib or stroller or pram, however you want to look at it, blanket. Now this sort of Afghan is going to be a little smaller than, let's say your standard baby or crib blanket. This one works out to be about 29 by 39 inches. So this is perfect for just a regular little throw that you can put into your crib. Now, this particular blanket is going to be a little small in terms of crib blanket sizes, but if you're looking for a crib throw for a small child or even a 2-year-old, this is still a perfect size for that. This fits perfectly into a stroller or a pram. It's just the right size to put over the baby or the child and tuck the edges in, just perfect for tuckable sizing. It has a nice weight to it, and it's quite lovely in its contrast. Now, of course, you can see the colors I have going on here. You don't like the colors, you can always change the colors. If, for example, you like the blanket, but it's not as big as you'd like it to be, you can make it bigger. Instead of doing a 3x3 block, which I have here, which basically works out to be 9 blocks, you can simply make 12 blocks, or you can go ahead and make it even bigger by using 16 blocks. So all you have to do is add as many blocks as you'd like, and the instructions in terms of the border and the trim, those are all easily adapted to whatever size you'd like to make this blanket. Just go ahead and listen to the video and you will see how to do that if you're at all confused about what that looks like. Also, if you just simply like the granny square block with the Irish crochet flower in the middle, just do that part of the video. If you simply just like the trim on the end caps of the blanket, where it looks like a little kind of 3-dimensional rose hedge, just do that part of the video. The instructions are there. They're very basic and straightforward. This piece looks way more complicated than it actually is because, well, we've broken it up into bite-sized pieces. So you can follow it step by step, use the parts you like, discard the parts you don't like. That's if you wanted to break it up. Otherwise, you just follow the instructions for this beautiful Gothic Victorian style baby blanket. Let me start off by giving a warm welcome to my Weaving Weird siblings. And for those of you who aren't in the know, my name is Sig. I'm a retired tattoo artist of about 20 years or so, turned fiber artist and passionate crocheter. And here on my channel is where you and I create a little magic with every knot. So don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps me to provide you with weekly tutorials featuring original designs, classic patterns, and lacy motifs. Sometimes they're elegant, sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're a little weird. You just never know until you stop by for a little visit. Because I'm always interested in your feedback, feel free to leave your comments and questions below. I really do try my best to get back to everybody when a question or a comment is made. So now, with all the housekeeping out of the way, let's get started. So the materials you're going to need to make this project are going to be a pair of scissors, one hook, size G. This is my preferred size hook for the size 4 worsted weight yarn I will be using. You might decide that you want to go up a size higher if you're more comfortable using that, but I would very much discourage you from going any smaller than a size G. A yarn and needle, and then of course your yarn. Now I'm using Loop and Threads Soft and Shiny yarn. I went and visited my Michaels store, my local Michaels store here a few weeks ago, and they had this huge sale that I just missed. So all the yarn was pretty well picked over, and what they had was a bunch of these odd colors of the Loops and Threads Soft and Shiny. And because they were on sale for $3 a skein, I mean, who could beat that? I just picked up a variety of colors, and because of that, I then now had a variety of colors in my stash that I had really no idea what to do with until I came across this classic three-dimensional rose granny square. And I thought, oh, wow, this will make a beautiful little Victorian style carriage blanket. And what a way to bust your stash with. Now you can pretty much use any color that you would like to use, whatever's available. It makes no difference. It'll all still turn out beautiful no matter what colors you use. It's all going to be based on your personal taste. So you may decide to go out and purchase yarn specifically for this project, or you may just simply use what you already have. But what I'm going to use is I'm using 7 different colors. And so I'm going to use white. I'm going to use cream. I'm going to use what is called or referred to as snow leopard. Then I have this green, and it's called parsley. Burgundy. Black. And what is referred to as Baroque multi. It's kind of this varied silvery gray and purple colors. The first thing I want to do is make my leaves. I'm going to want to make 20 of these, but don't worry, they work up very quickly. And we're going to begin by chaining 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Next, I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Next, I'm going to do a half double crochet in the next chain. And then I'm going to do a double crochet in the next 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4. After that, the next chain is going to be a half double crochet. And then I'm going to make a single crochet in the next 2 chains. So that'll be my first single crochet. And then in that very first chain that we made, I'm going to make my next single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in the same chain that we just came off of, I'm going to place another single crochet. And then I'm going to place a single crochet in the next stitch, just right across from that other single crochet in the same chain. So this will be the bottom loop of the chain, is basically what we're working in now. Next, I'm going to place a half double crochet in the next stitch. And then in the next 4 stitches, I am going to place a double crochet in each one. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then again, a half double crochet in the next stitch, and then a single crochet in the stitch after that. Now this is where we're going to go ahead and going to fasten off with a slip stitch. I'm going to cut myself, about 6 inches or so of a tail, because I'm going to use this tail to sew my leaf into place onto the square when we get to that point. And that's all there is to it. You make 20 of these and then move on to your square. So to begin, I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustable ring. Some of you know this is a magic ring. And I'm going to go ahead and chain 1. Next, I'm going to single crochet 8. So 1, 7, and 8. And then tighten up my ring.
Then I'm going to slip stitch in that.
First, single crochet. I'm going to make a slip stitch and I'm going to join. Then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to skip the next stitch and I'm going to single crochet in the stitch after that. Then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to skip the next stitch and then I'm going to single crochet in the stitch after that. I'm going to do this 2 more times. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip a stitch and then single crochet into that next stitch. Going to chain 3. And then I'm going to come right back here and I'm going to single crochet. So I'm going to skip the next stitch right here. I'm going to single crochet in the same stitch that we did the chain 4 off of. Right? And then in that very first stitch, or the very first chain from that chain 4 stitch, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slip stitch right into that. And that'll get me set up to begin round 3. Now for round 3, I'm going to chain 1. Then I'm going to place 4 double crochets into this chain 4 loop. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I'm going to chain 1. And I'm going to slip stitch right here into this next single crochet stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1 again. And then I'm going to double crochet in this next chain 3 loop. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, chain 1, slip stitch in the next single crochet, chain 1 again, and then I'm going to repeat for the next 2 3 chain spaces here at these loops. So again, when you've completed row 3, you should have something that looks like this. So now we're going to move on to row 4. And for row 4, we're going to start to work a little bit behind some of these petals. Next, I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then in the next petal, you remember where you had the 4 double crochets, I am going to make a double crochet in the back center of those 4 double crochets. So it'll land like right between the 2 middle double crochets of that petal. Just like so. So you can kind of see how that's done. It's like that. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to double crochet right here where that slip stitch is that joins the 2 petals. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double crochet right in the back around that slip stitch. So you can kind of see what I got going on. Yeah. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to continue just like that. So I'm going to make a double crochet in the back center of the next petal. And then I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to then make a double crochet right back here in the back, around this back loop here, or sorry, around the back post here of this slip stitch. Okay, so now that we've made our way all the way around, so far you should have this kind of mesh kind of a look going around the back of your rows. And then I did my last 2 chains, and then I'm going to go ahead and in the second chain of this 5 chain stitch, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to slip stitch and I'm going to join. So like I said, now you can start seeing the foundation, and this is where we're going to start making our next petals off of this next base. So now for round 5, I'm going to begin by chaining 2. Then I'm going to make 3 double crochets in this next chain 3 loop. So 1, 2, and then 3. And then I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to slip stitch in the next double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to double crochet 3 in the next chain 3 space. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to double crochet in the next double crochet. And then I'm going to double crochet in the next, or 3 times in the next 3 chain space. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to slip stitch in the next double crochet. And then I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to double crochet 3 times. 1, 2, 3 in that chain 3 space. I'm going to double crochet in the double crochet, next double crochet there. And then I'm going to double crochet 3 more times in that next chain 3 space. And then I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to slip stitch in the next double crochet. All right, so now I have 2 complete petals for round 5 and half a petal for round 5. Again, I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to double crochet 3 times in that chain 3 space. And double crochet in the next double crochet. and double crochet 3 more times in the next 3 chain space. Then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to slip stitch in the next double crochet there. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to double crochet 3 times in that last chain 3 space. And then right here where we chained 2, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slip stitch right into that second chain. And that'll complete my round 5. Now for round 6, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to chain 4. And then just as before, I'm going to double crochet, but in the back post of the next slip stitch. And I'm going to chain 4 again. And then I'm going to double crochet right here in the back bottom part of the center double crochet of that petal. And then I'm going to chain 4 again. And then I'm going to double crochet right here into the back post of that slip stitch. And then just as before, 4 again. Right into that center, or rather 4th double crochet. Right here into the back base of it. And I'm going to continue that until I've completed the complete round. Now as I complete round 6, so you can see kind of like what we did before, but for round 6, getting set up for the next round of petals, I've made my way back around again. And then in here, I'm just simply going to slip stitch. Now for round 7, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 2. So 1, 2. Next, in this chain 4 space, I'm going to double crochet 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to skip this double crochet, and then I'm going to double crochet 4 double crochets in this next 4 chain loop. Then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to slip stitch right there into the next double crochet. So you can see this is my next petal. I'm going to do this 3 more times. Now come back around. I'm going to finish with my last 2 chains. And then I'm going to come down here and slip stitch. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 6. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to start setting up here for round 8. I'm going to begin to set up for my next set of petals. And of course, we're going to go and work the back again. But this time I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my double crochet right into that double crochet that we skipped initially. And then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then as before, in the earlier rounds, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to double crochet right here into this post, right through the slip stitch from the back. And then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double crochet right here into the double crochet that we previously skipped. And then I'm going chain 4. And then again, double crochet right here through the back post right here of this back stitch of that slip stitch that we made in the last round. I'm in chain 4. I'm going to continue just like that all the way around. So now that I've come all the way back around again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slip stitch into the second chain of this 6 chains that we began with. And so this is what your rose is looking like so far. And then you can also see what your back should look like. So now I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. And then in this next 4 chain space, I'm going to double crochet 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to slip stitch into the next double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to double crochet 5 double crochets in the next chain 4 space. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now once I've completed my 5 double crochets, I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to double crochet 5 in the next chain 4 loop. So that'll be 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to slip stitch right down here into this next double crochet. So now you can see I've got my next petal and a half completed, and I'm going to continue just this way all the way around. And then when I get right back here to the beginning of my round 9, I'm going to slip stitch and be ready for round 10. Now we're going to begin round 10. For round 10, we're going to get set up for our last set of petals. I'm going to begin by chaining 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just as before, I'm going to work in the back side of this piece. So I'm going to double crochet right here around that slip stitched, and I'm going to make a double crochet. I'm going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to come behind and I'm going to double crochet into the double crochet that we skipped in the previous row or round. I'm going to chain 5. And then I'm going to double crochet around this back post, around this post here from the back of the former slip stitch. chain 5. And so you get the picture. And continue doing this all the way around. So as before, I'm going to come right back here. I'm going to slip stitch right into this very first chain.
Next, we're going to begin round 11.
Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. Then I'm going to double crochet 5 in this chain 5 space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now next, I'm going to double crochet in the next double crochet stitch. Then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to double crochet again right back into that same stitch. Then I'm going to double crochet 5 in the chain 5 space. 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then I'm going to I'm going to make 2 chains, and then I'm going to slip stitch in the next double crochet. So that's the first of my last petals. And then I'm going to repeat that again until I've completed all my petals all the way around, at which time I will fasten off with a slip stitch. And then at that time, we'll move on to the next color. So again, I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to double crochet 5 times in the chain 5 space. And then I'm going to do the combination of a double crochet in that next double crochet, plus a chain 3, plus another double crochet right in that same stitch. Gives me that nice little V-stitch right in the middle of the petal. And then I'm going to double crochet 5 times in the next chain 5 space. I'm in chain 2, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the next double crochet, and that gives me the completion of my second petal. And I'll meet you right back here when I've finished these next couple of petals. So once the center or your Irish crochet rose is finished for your square, there's a couple of different things, a pro tip, if you will, that I'd like to include if this is something that concerns you. So a lot of these Irish crochet flowers, such as this one, once you've completed them, they kind of have this bit of this telescopic kind of effect. And for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of that when it comes to like crochet blankets. So in lace work, when you're just using the really fine or lace weight threads, this doesn't seem to be a huge problem. It doesn't seem to be as profound or as obvious. It just kind of lays flat, and there never really doesn't ever seem to be a real problem. But when we're using like regular yarn, for whatever reason, it gets kind of telescopic. And that is something I'd rather not have be a part of a blanket that I'm using. So what I do is I just take matching yarn and I just weave it through the back. So I find a couple of places, right, to weave it through. And then what I'll do is I'll just follow the natural stitching or line of, of the back of the piece. And so I won't pull it too tight, but I'll pull it a little taut. And what that will do is that will help to keep your motif flat, and it won't get distorted or do kind of that telescopic move on you. And so what I'll do is I'll just make my way through. I'll just run it through the different lines. I should have like 8 of these lines around the back. Or rather, I shouldn't say lines, but I should say, where your double crochets kind of connect along the back of your piece. And as you can see, what it does is it just kind of anchors everything into place. Okay, so now that I've finished weaving in that yarn along these different radial lines, just kind of in and then up and around, and just kind of putting them in there, this makes a much more solid and tight knit for the back of our motif. And I really like it to be a tighter knit, particularly on an Afghan, because it doesn't get snagged or caught up on things. And then, of course, it holds its shape much nicer, especially for a blanket or a piece that's actually going to see some regular use. So you can kind of see how that works out on the back of a square. Now let's move on to round 12. For round 12, I'm going to begin in a space that sits between 2 petals, and I'm going to work from behind. And again, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to tie in to that slip stitch right there in between and behind. And then I'm going to chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then right here in this next connecting double crochet here behind the middle of this next petal, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a double crochet right in there. I'm going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm going to come back here to this slip stitch between the 2 petals, and I'm going to double crochet again right in the back of those stitches right there. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 6 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to slip stitch in the same top part of this double crochet, this last double crochet that we just made. Next, I'm going to chain 6 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically what I'm doing is I'm repeating this again. So I got the 6, and then I'm going to double crochet right here in the back of the middle part of this petal. And then chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then double crochet right here into the back of this slip stitch that separates the 2 petals. And then I'm going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to slip stitch in the top part of the double crochet we just created. And then I'm going to continue this last portion that we just did 2 more times. So I'm basically going to have these little loops here, these 6 count loops 2 more times. And I'll finish that up by when I join here to this, to the beginning part of round 12, I will, of course, join into this second chain. And from the second chain, because I'm going to treat this as like a double crochet basically, and once I join into the second chain, I'm then going to chain 6 and then slip stitch it back into the same stitch. So I'll meet you right back here. So now we're going to join there in that second chain. I'm going to chain 6, and then I'm going to slip stitch back into that same stitch. So the back of your work should look something like this. Now we're developing our corners, so you can see that by the loops. And then next we're going to move on to round 13. So for round 13, I'm going to begin by making a slip stitch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I'm going to double crochet. I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to double crochet again. And chain 1. I'm going to do that 3 more times in the next chain 6 space. So I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet and chain 1 one more time. So basically what we got going on here is this first 4 chain is going to be your double crochet. It's going to be the same as having a double crochet plus a chain 1. And then we have it 5 more times, which brings us along the length of the first side. Now we're going to start working the corner here in this chain 6 loop. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double crochet into that loop there. I'm going to chain 1. And I'm going to double crochet again. Next I'm going to next I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to double crochet once, chain 1, and then double crochet one more time in that loop. And then I'll chain 1. So now you can see that I've rounded my corner. So my first side plus a corner. And now I'm going to do the same thing for this side. I'm going to have my 3 double crochets plus 1 in this first 6 chain space. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to do that 3 more times, 3 double crochet plus chain 1s in this next 6 chain space. So 1, 2 double crochet plus a chain, and then my 3rd double crochet plus a chain. And that brings me back to my next corner. And then in my next corner, again, it's going to be a double crochet plus a chain plus a double crochet plus 3 chains, 1, 2, and 3, and then plus another double crochet plus chain, and 1 more double crochet plus a chain. And that's my second corner. And I'm going to continue just like that all the way around until I come back to my last corner, my 4th corner here. And then my last single chain, I'm going to make my last single chain, and that's where I'm going to then slip stitch it into the second chain where I began round 13. And we're down to our last chain stitch, and then I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch that right into the beginning of round 13. So now we're going to move on to round 14. And for round 14, we're going to want to go ahead and slip stitch right into this next chain 1 space. And then I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2 and I'm going to single crochet in the next chain 1 space. I'm going to chain 2 and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 2, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and then chain 2 again and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Again, chain 2, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and then chain 2 again, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 2, and right here we're going to single crochet into this chain 3 space at the corner, and we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then single crochet again into this chain 3 space. And then chain 2, and then single crochet into the next chain 1 space. So you can see that along the edge we're going to do a single crochet in each of the chain 1 spaces with a chain 2. And then when we come here to the corner, we'll single crochet 1, we'll chain 3, and then we'll single crochet again in that same chain 3 space. And then we'll just repeat that all the way around. And then as I round my 4th corner, I'm still continuing. And then I'm going to join right here into this single crochet. So I have my last 2 chains, and I'm going to join right into this first single crochet that we made. And then at this point, I'm going to change colors. Now, for row 15, I'm going to start in the corner. Right here in this chain 3 space. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to double crochet in that same space. Then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to make 2 more double crochets into that same chain 3 space. So 1 and then 2. So each corner should have 2 double crochets. In this case, my chain 2 is standing in for a double crochet with a 3 chain between them to create that corner. And then each length of the side or the edging should have 2 double crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces. And that's all you need to do to complete round 15. So now to finish up round 15, I'm simply going to go ahead and slip stitch right into the second chain of the 2 chains that we began with. And then next I'm going to slip stitch right here into this 3 chain space. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet. And this is where I began round 16. So then I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to single crochet in that same chain 3 space. Then I'm going to chain 3, And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to single crochet between each of the 2 double crochet clusters. So I'm going to skip these next 2 double crochets, and I'm going to single crochet right in the middle between the 2 clusters. So this is one cluster of 2 double crochets, and this is another cluster of 2 double crochets. Then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to single crochet in between the next 2 double crochet clusters, and chain 3, and then single crochet in between the next 2 double crochet clusters. I'm going to continue that all the way around, and the only difference is when we hit the corners. So when you hit the corners and we make our first single crochet right here in the chain 3 space, I'm going to make my single crochet, I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to make another single crochet in the same chain 3 space. And then I'll go back to my chaining 3 and then single crocheting between the 2 double crochet clusters. And I'll continue that all the way around. Now next, for round 17, I'm going to bring in my black. And you can really start anywhere you want on your square with your black. I'm going to go right in here in this chain 3 space, because that's what I'm going to be working in, is the chain 3 space. You can go ahead and tie in. And then what I want to do is I want to place 2 single crochets in each one of those chain 3 spaces. The only difference is that when I get to the chain 3 space at the corner, I'm going to put 3 single crochets. So I have 2 single crochets already in my first chain 3 space, and then next chain 3 space, 2 more single crochets. Next chain 3 space, 2 more single crochets. Again, 2 more single crochets. Next chain 3 space, 2 more single crochets. And now I'm in the corner part, the chain 3 space in the corner, and I'm going to place 3 single crochets. And I'm going to continue just like that all the way around. 2 single crochets in every chain 3 space except for the 4 chain 3 spaces that you find at the corner of your square, and then you're going to place 3 single crochets into the corner space. So now that I've joined and completed round 17, I'm going to move on to round 18. And for round 18, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet in that same stitch, in that same single crochet. And I'm going to single crochet in each single crochet along the edge of my square. And the only time I'm going to switch this up is when I get to that one corner stitch. That second stitch here in the chain 3 space, this one right here, and in that stitch I'm going to place 2 single crochets. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do, is single crochet in each stitch except for that one corner stitch at each of the corners, and then I'm going to place 2 single crochets into that stitch. And that's what I'll need to do to complete round 18. So once you've completed round 18, you should have something that looks similar to this. Now, of course, your colors are probably going to be different, but you get the picture. Next, I'm going to do round 19. And for round 19, you can pretty much start anywhere. And it's going to be very similar to what we've been doing already. So, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie in, and I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to make a half double crochet in that same stitch. And I'm going to make a half double crochet in each stitch after that until I get to the 2 single crochets in each corner. So you're just going to half double crochet in each stitch. And now when I get to those 2 single crochets right there in that corner, I'm going to make 2 half double crochets in the first single crochet of the corner. I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to make 2 half double crochets into the next single crochet. And it'll look like that. So just a quick recap, we're going to half double crochet in each single crochet until we get to the 2 single crochets in the very corner. And in each one of those single crochets, I'm going to place 2 half double crochets separated by a chain 2. So at the completion of round 19, your piece should look like this. And we have one more round, around 20. And for round 20, basically, we're going to be doing the same thing that we did for round 19 with a slight difference. So you can start anywhere you want. That's fine with this one. And again, going to chain 2. And then half double crochet in that same stitch. And then I'm going to half double crochet in each stitch after that. Now, when I get to the corner, the chain 2 corner, I'm going to half double crochet 3 half double crochets into that corner stitch. And then that's pretty much all there is going to be to it in terms of round 20. Simply half double crochet in each stitch. And then when you get to that corner stitch with the 2 chain space, go ahead and put 3 half double crochets into that corner. And I'll meet you right back here to show you how to finish up your square. So once you've completed round 20, your square should look like this, or something like this. Now, 4 of your squares or 4 of your blocks are going to be just like this. You will have finished this block. This will be your O, for example. But you're going to also need 5 of your blocks to have the X, and the X is made using the leaves. And so you're going to use 4 leaves for those blocks that you're putting your X on. And you're basically going to take the leaf that you make and you're going to put it right here at each corner. And then you're going to use the yarn, or the tail rather, that you left to sew your leaf right here into the corner. And I have 4 leaves here. And so you can see how they're going to sit. After your block is complete, whether it has its leaves or not, depending on which block you're working on, once all 9 blocks are complete, we're going to move on to the next step. So now the next thing we want to do is to sew our blocks together. So because it's a tic-tac rows or toes, tic-tac-toe design, the 5 blocks that you have that have your leaves on it, those are going to be found at each of the corners and 1 in the center. And then of course your 4 blocks that are just the plain rows by itself that gives kind of just the O shape, you're going to find that in the middle along the edges. So the way I sewed my blocks together is I'm using a mattress stitch. Now a mattress stitch is also basically called an invisible seam stitch for some people, and you of course can use any stitch you like, but here I'll show you how to do a mattress stitch, and that gives you this nice stitch that you really just don't see. Your blocks just fit really pretty nicely together. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up between the top stitch, right? So you have kind of the V going on in the top part of your stitch. And then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to insert it into the V that I came out of on that side. And just watch what I'm doing and you'll understand what I'm talking about. And then I'll just pull my stitch up through there. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to insert my needle into the stitch I just came out of before this last one. Now, I'm probably not explaining it very well. You probably understand what I'm doing more so just by watching. And hopefully you can see what I'm doing because it's green on green, so it might be a little difficult for you to see exactly how I'm doing this. Yeah, so I pull it up through the center of the V to my right, and then I reinsert my needle into the V that I initially came up from on the left, but then I'm coming up and I'm putting it through to the next V up. And then I'm going over here and I'm reinserting it in the previous stitch and pulling it through the new stitch. And then again, I bring it back, putting it into the previous stitch and then pull it through the new stitch. And you want to keep it right here in between the V's, right here in the middle, because this is what pulls your piece together in that nice seamless fashion. Now next, when I've finished sewing all of my squares together, I'm going to use in my case, I'm going to use my green yarn. You're going to use whatever color yarn you want to. And I am going to single crochet around the edge of my 9 blocks that I have just sewn together. And then here in each of the corners where I have the 3 half double crochets, that middle half double crochet, I'm going to do 3 single crochets into that one middle half double crochet right here in the center of the corner. But otherwise, I'm just going to do basically a single crochet for each half double crochet. And I will see you right back here after I have done that. So we'll count this as round 1 in terms of starting fresh and new for the actual border of the blanket itself. Okay, so now that I've completed round 1 with my single crochet, remember I went all the way around, and then in each corner I put 3 single crochets into that corner stitch, but every other stitch is a single crochet. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to join. I'm going to chain 2. And in that same stitch, I'm going to make a half double crochet. I'm going to continue using green for my blanket. Now, you may have a different color that you like to use or are using. Absolutely, go ahead and do that. And I personally want to continue using the green. I'm going to use the green for one more round. And so that'll be my round 2. And I will continue just like what I did with the single crochets, except this time I'm going to put a half double crochet in each stitch until I get to that corner stitch, and then I'll put 3 half double crochets into the corner stitch, and then every other stitch is going to be a half double crochet until I get to the next corner, whereby I'm going to put 3 half double crochets into that next corner stitch. So I'll have 4 points on this blanket where I'll have 3 half double crochets in a corner, and everything else is just going to be, as said before, the half double crochet for each stitch. All right, so now that you've gotten all your 9 blocks sewn together, plus your additional bit of bordering around all of your 9 blocks to give it a nice smooth square look, if you will, we're going to now add a couple of strips to 2 sides or opposite sides of your blanket in order to give this a more rectangled feel, as well as adding a little extra interest, a little extra Victorian embellishment, if you like. And what I've done here is my next move, as you can see with the trim that we've got here, I'm going to repeat this trim on the other side. And I will show you how I'm going to do that as we move along. So as you can see, I have black, white, green, and burgundy. And so the green and burgundy give kind of that rose hedge look I like. I think it adds that little additional bit of personality and really gives this kind of a more Victorian kind of a garden feel. And then, of course, back to the white, which kind of reminds me of lattice work, and then the black again. And so, as you can see, I've completed it on the one side, and now we're going to flip the work over, and we're going to start on the second side. And for this, I want my work to face me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my black. And I'm going to come to the corner of my piece right here at the stitch in the very corner. I'm going to tie in my black. And then I'm going to chain 2. And in that same stitch, I'm going to half double crochet. And then I'm going to half double crochet in every stitch until I hit the very next corner. And then I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to half double crochet in that same stitch, and I'll show you when I get there. And then I'm going to half double crochet all the way back again and tie off my work. And then at that point, I will be picking up my next color. Now, if you're doing this whole piece in a monochromatic fashion, you're not picking up another color. You're just continuing on with the color that you've decided to use. Or if you've decided your color scheme is going to be a little different, that's all up to you. But I'm just showing you what it is and how it is that I make this particular piece. Okay, so I'll meet you right back here as soon as I get to the end of this row. I've half double crocheted the length of the one side, the opposite side of my other trim. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to turn my work. I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to half double crochet in that very same stitch. And then I'm going to half double crochet in each stitch until I've completed the row. And then I'm going to finish off with the color I'm using. I'm going to turn my work and get ready to start with my next color. So for the third row, I'm going to begin with my white, and I'm going to use white for a total of 4 rows. I'm going to go into my first stitch right there at the corner. I'm going to tie in. Then I'm going to chain 1. Next, I'm going to single crochet in that same stitch. And now after that, I'm going to single crochet in each stitch until I've completed this row. So now that I've completed row 3, I'm going to go ahead and turn the work. And I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to double crochet in that same stitch. and then I'm going to chain 1. And this is where I began the lattice work. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip a stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet and chain 1. Skip a stitch, double crochet, and then chain 1. Again, skip a stitch, double crochet, and chain 1. So this is what I have going on, and I'll do this for the length of this side. And then of course, when I come back for row 5, when I work my way back on row 5, I'm going to, turn my work from row 4. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to double crochet in that same stitch. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and skip the chain 1 space, and I'm going to double crochet into the next double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip the chain 1 stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet again into the next double crochet. So I will have completed, when I come back, I will have completed 2 rows of the lattice work. Now that I've completed row 6, at this point my work is facing me. I'm going to turn my work, and then I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to single crochet in that same stitch, and then I'm going to single crochet in each stitch after that. So a single crochet in the chain 1 space, and then a single crochet in the double crochet, chain 1 space, and then in the double crochet, so on and so forth until I've completed the row. And then at that point, I am going to finish off with my white, and I will have finished row 6. And then I'll turn my work so the right side will be facing me again. And that's where we're going to start with the next color, which is going to be the green leaves of that flower garden trim middle part that you see. So now that I've finished up with the white and completed row 6, I'm going to move on to row 7. I'm going to use my green. And if you're following along as well, remember at this point your work should be facing you. So next I'm going to tie in my green. And this is where things get a little different. So I'm going to begin by chaining 2, 1 and 2. And then I'm going to double crochet in that same stitch. Next, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to double crochet in that same stitch. This time I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and I'm going to double crochet in the 3rd stitch over. And I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to double crochet into that same stitch again. So it should begin to look something like this. Now again, I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and then I'm going to double crochet in the 3rd stitch over. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to double crochet in that same stitch again. So you can kind of see the V stitches that are separated by 2 stitches, except for when we begin. When we begin, we only skip the 1 stitch. And you're going to continue just like this until you've completed the length of the row. So now I'm coming to my last V. I'm going to go ahead and double crochet and chain 1, and then double crochet again into that same stitch. And then I'm just going to go ahead and simply double crochet in my last stitch. Now, you might end up with a couple of different scenarios depending on how the count has worked out for you. So for this, and before I move on, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off, because this is this one we want to finish off at this side because we're going to stay working on the front, and I'm not going to turn my work again for another couple of rows. So here, if say this was, you were 3 stitches away from your end, you would just simply skip these next 2 stitches and do your last double crochet into that last stitch and then finish off. Now let's say you have 2, you would simply just skip the 1 stitch and go ahead and double crochet into that last stitch. Whereas here you saw I didn't have any stitches at all left, so I just simply went ahead and double crocheted into that last stitch. So that's basically how you're going to finish it off. So we're not going to get too hung up on the count, because this is one of those projects where by the time you get to this point within the blanket, you may find that your count isn't exactly what the designer may say it is. And, you know, for a variety of reasons, right? It's not like your square, where your square, you really need to have your exact counts taken care of in terms of your square and have that done correctly. But in terms of this, or by the time you get done sewing all your blocks together and then crocheting your border, you may end up with 1 or 2 additional stitches than you think maybe you ought to have. So we're just not going to worry about it too much. This isn't something that's going to make or break your blanket, and you won't even notice. I'm just trying to convey this to you so you're able to finish up the end of this particular row without having too many issues with that, or, you know, without getting too confused or concerned over what your last couple of stitches needs to look like. Okay, so next we're going to come back and we're going to start at the beginning again. And this time we are going to use red, or at least I'm going to use red. You may have a different color in mind. So now I'm going to tie in my red at the very beginning again. I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next, I'm going to place 5 double crochets right into the middle of the V, right into that chain 1 space. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to remove my hook, and then I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook again into that first double crochet. I'm going to pick up the loop, and I'm going to pull that loop through. And in essence, what I've done is I've made what's called a popcorn stitch, but it creates this nice rosebud, or some people call it a tulip. Basically, it gives you this nice spring looking flower with the leaves and the bud. So I'm going to then chain that closed, and that's the completion of my rosebud. Next, I'm going to chain 2, so 1 and 2. And then I'm again going to double crochet 5 double crochets in the next chain 1 space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, remove my hook, reinsert it into the first double crochet of that cluster. Pull that tight and close it with a slip stitch. And I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2. I'm going to continue like that through the remainder of the row. So each green V is going to become the leaves with the bud in the center of it. And now when I come back here, I'm going to do, of course, the same thing in the last V. And then I'm going to finish it off with 1 more double crochet. And what I'm going to do is I will count how many stitches I have left. So for example, if this were my last bud right here, I would do my bud, and then I would finish off my bud with the slip stitch, of course. And then I would chain 2, and I would do my last double crochet into the last stitch, right? So if I only had one stitch left, or rather I should say 2 stitches left, and we're only going to be skipping the 1 stitch, I would finish off my bud, slip stitch it shut, and then chain 1, and then do my last double crochet into that last space. Now here, because I have no spaces on mine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bud, close it with a slip stitch, and then I'm simply going to move right into making my last double crochet. So I hope you're able to understand what I said there, because I know it sounds a little cumbersome as I hear myself say it, but I hope it makes some sense to you. And if it doesn't, just go ahead and drop the question in the comment box below, and I'll do my best to try to explain it in a better way. All right, I'll meet you back here when we're ready to move on to row 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook into that chain 2 there on the side. And I'm going to tie in, as I normally do, my white yarn. And then next I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet in that same stitch. And now for this piece, because we're here on the end, we're starting our first pass, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to single crochet once. Next, I'm going to insert my hook right into that center part of the bud where we close the bud with a slip stitch, and I'm going to make a single crochet right in there. And then I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the chain 2 space. So 1 and then 2. And then again, I'm going to single crochet right there in the center part of the bud where the bud was closed with the slip stitch. And then I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the 2 chain space, just like so. I'm going to continue that all the way down, basically giving myself a single crochet for each stitch all the way across. And then I'm going to continue just like I normally would for the lattice work. I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to chain to begin with 4, like what you've seen in row 4. And we're going to continue. We're basically going to be repeating exactly what we did in the 4 white rows plus the 2 black rows. Now I'll have those stitches again posted for you on the video, but I will meet you back here when I have completed the next 6 rows, the 4 rows of the white and the 2 rows of the black. And then after that, we'll move on to our next step. Now I've finished both my ends. And so each strip basically on either end of your blanket should look like this. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to move on to these raw edges right here. And for the raw edge, what I want to do is I want to do 2 rows of half double crochets. And one of the really important things to remember, just like before, is that you make sure that your count is the same on each side of the blanket. And the only time that should get too tricky, particularly if your count is even on both sides of the initial blocks that you crocheted together, you might just run into problems here during this section, because as we crochet, we basically want to have a half double crochet in each row, or rather also in each stitch, right? So a row might be one single crochet high. And so if that's the case, then we just put in one half double crochet into that stitch. If it happens to be a half double crochet high, then we'll just put one half double crochet in that stitch. So that will be easy enough. Now, if we have a double crochet, like what we're coming on up here, I'm now going to want to put 2 stitches into that double crochet height. So I'm going to put 1, and then I'll put my second one right there, and then move on to my next double crochet row. So I have my 1, and then I have my 2, and then I come back down here to this row that had a single crochet height. So then I'm going to put in my half double crochet there, and so on and so forth. And then of course, when we get to the part where the blocks are crocheted together, it'll be simple because you'll just put one half double crochet per stitch that you encounter. Now, this side is going to require 2 rows from one end to the other, and you're going to fasten off. And then the opposite side is also going to require 2 rows of half double crochet. Just make sure again that it's the same count on both sides. All right, now I'll see you right back here after that, and I will discuss the last part of the blanket, and that will be the ruffle. Okay, now once I have all 4 sides finished with my 2 rows of double crochet in the black, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to single crochet each stitch, and then at each corner I'm going to place 3 single crochets. So I'll have 4 corners. Each of those corner stitches will have 3 single crochets, and the rest of each stitch is going to contain 1 single crochet, and that's basically going to be my foundation for the edging that we'll move on to once that's completed. Okay, so now is the time that we're going to begin the trim. And you can see I already started, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this corner, and I'm going to pretend like I haven't started it yet, just so that I can show you how to get it started. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to your corner as usual, and you're going to find that very corner stitch. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to chain 3. Then next you're going to double crochet in that same stitch. Then you're going to chain 1. You're going to skip 1, and then you're going to double crochet in the next stitch. Then again, you're going to double crochet in the stitch after that. Then you're going to chain 1. You're going to skip 1, and then you're going to double crochet again in the stitch after that. And then once again, double crochet again in the stitch after that. And then chain 1 and skip 1. You're going to do just that all the way around your blanket. And this is going to give a kind of heavier lattice look, at least for this part of the trim. Now, when you get to the corner, and so we'll move over here to a corner that I've already finished, because it's going to be hard to exactly pinpoint down, like how many stitches you actually have, because yours might be off by a couple, from the count that I got. And so because these things happen, particularly when we're working on a piece like this, it's, it's a little structured, and then, it's a little free-formed. So this is kind of where we're at with this, and particularly with the border, because these borders and these edges usually work in multiples of however many stitches they're going to work in. And sometimes, unless you have the count down just perfectly, you kind of have to work around the border stitches, right? And so this particular border or edging is going to work out fine for that situation. And so basically, when you hit your edge, what you're going to do is when you go to the edge, the stitch before the corner stitch, well, I guess it depends on where you land, but as you land, you may land right exactly onto the corner stitch, at which time you're going to place your 4 double crochets separated by 1 chain in the same stitch. However, because here I landed on the stitch just before that corner stitch, I put my 2 double crochets in that stitch, and then I chained 1, and then I put the next 2 double crochets right in that corner stitch. And so what this is going to do is this is going to give us our corner. So you're going to have it land one of 2 ways, right? So you're going to land right into that, exactly into that center stitch, which means you will work your 2 double crochets, or you will land on the stitch just before that corner stitch, and then you'll work your 2 double crochets in that one, chain 1, work your 2 double crochets in the next stitch, as opposed to having all 4 of your stitches plus a chain 1 worked into that same corner stitch, which of course you would have to do if you landed on that corner stitch. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. I'm trying to make it so that you kind of understand how to alter your piece a little bit, how to finagle things a little bit so your work or your blanket works out fine. And there again, if you need me to try to explain it again, just let me know, and I'll be happy to do my best with that in the comment box below. Now, once you've completed the second round for the edging, it brings you right back here to where you started. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next, you're going to single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Then you're going to single crochet 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And you're going to basically do this all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Now that I've made my way around for round 3 and I'm just about ready to finish up, I'm down here to the last chain 1 space that I need to address. And so what I'm going to do is, instead of doing a 5 chain loop, I'm going to crochet 3 chains, and then I'm going to double crochet into that last chain 1 space. And these 5 double crochets, which is going to make the first shell of round 4. Next, in the next 5 chain space, I'm going to single crochet 1. And then in the next 5 chain space, I'm going to double crochet 5. Make my second shell. Then I'm going to single crochet again in the next chain 5 space. And I'm going to continue that pattern until I've come all the way around, and then I'm going to fasten off. And after all that, you're left with a beautiful afghan. So don't forget to check out the videos in my other playlist for more tutorials just like this one. And with all that said, and it was such a pleasure having you with me today, until we meet again, stay creative, stay amazing, and above all, always weave your own weird. Bye-bye now. Have a fantastic week.